I'm in. Hello, hello, lovelies.
Hello. How are you, man?
Oh, I can't even begin to say. So good, so good, so good, so good. I love these, Deborah.
Oh,
Little
my
pigtails.
pigtails? Well, my hair is in, I haven't had a cut for a year and whatever, but I just don't like it tickling my neck and my face, so I just pull it back and hey, I can be 12 again. What the heck?
No, exactly. I'm the very same way, just pull it back and whatever.
Yeah.
Geez, Louise, so lovely to see you both. It feels like it already feels like it's been ages. And actually, Laura, is it true that we haven't seen each other? We haven't spoken properly since. Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about
a week.
Holy smokes! Talk about bending time and space and shrinking, and it's incredible. It's incredible.
It's not necessarily gotten a lot of traction right at this point, but it might at some point, because ultimately we're in the beginning stages of something so beautiful. And so each of us are really showing up as leaders of our own lives, which is part of empowering leaders of self to come together and create the mastermind that allows us to get out of the vision that we have based on where we are, and to see that collectively we've got a much higher level access if only we're willing to stand on the shoulders of giants, and then also be able to recognize that we are the giants that others are standing on the shoulders of in future too. So I would love, Manj, for you to share some goodies. I know you've only got half an hour today because you've got a Stand Up Canada meeting. So if you want to speak into where you're at, what's going on for you, and progressive options that people have to plug energy into, since that's really what ideas all are.
Brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, I'll share about stand up in a moment. I've got something that's right at the tip of my heart, actually, that I start with. And
good place to start. We were just talking about heart.
It's all about heart today. Like the synchronicities are incredulous, there's so many, there's just so many. So I'm going to start with just a little story that just happened, and then I'll end that with something else. But it's been quite a stressful day. Stress, maybe that's not the best word, but it's been an intense day.
Wow.
In terms of in terms of what's going on in the world and whatever. So I had to, and normally I walk in the mornings because it's so hot later on. And I did do that, though it was really cold actually, and I walked barefoot on frost through a schoolyard. And just now I finished my walking through the same schoolyard barefoot in the blazing heat. So the contrast was just, it was just incredible. But before that happened, what I wish to relate to you is this. So I'm walking down the road, and there's a mum and two kids, and the daughter, young school kid. They're both really young. The little boy's, I don't know, maybe 3, 4 sort of thing, and then the girl's just a couple of years older, so it seems. And so they're across the road diagonally. And I'm 5 minutes from where I stay, and I've greeted everybody who's crossed my path. And this was like, am I going to go out right now, or am I just going to lie down? And and I was just so compelled. Go outside. That was the message. That was the resounding message I got. Because normally walking in the morning before 6, I don't see anyone anymore. So it was just get outside and cross with people. Anyways, all that to say, so the little girl points at me. So I naturally just walk over, and I said, you must be thinking of someone else, la la la, whatever. And she doesn't take her eyes off me at all. So I come down, I crouch down, and I ask her what her name is, and her name is one letter from my own. And so I'm just, and she's so beautiful, this child, like her eyes, she's like a jasmine, you know, and she won't stop staring at me. So I felt really compelled to continue interacting with her. And you know, after a few moments, her mom was answering all the questions for her that I was asking, which was really interesting. And then her mom said, you know, she's not very well. She has regular seizures. She has epilepsy, and all this stuff. And she's quite slow. And I just kept my eyes on her, on the girl, and she kept hers on me. And I mean, mom was really lovely, really lovely. And you know, she's full on into this, right? It's her experience. So I keep my eyes on this girl, and I'm just telling her, you know, how beautiful she is, and that I only see her getting better and better. Right. And so this is like a really, it's not a long exchange. And by the end, mommy's invited me to come over to the house, and, you know, and I'm, after that, walking down the road, just holding my heart, saying, thank you, God. Thank you, God. This is why I'm outside. This is what I was supposed to do. This is exactly it. You know, and that's the very thing that that's missing, right? But here's the thing. I say that and I retract that, because when I go out, this happens all the time, like beautiful things like that, right? It's just when we open ourselves up to it. And so it was so powerful. It was so powerful. And I came back, and then I laid down before jumping on with you ladies. And you know, that just led me to everything that you so beautifully and poignantly say, Laura, about you know, co-creating and lifting ourselves as creator beings. That you know, what I really wish to say is, you know, what are we doing? What are we actually, you know, we're doing, that's the real work for me, right? It's connecting with people. I can be online all day long, you know, dealing with people who are writing in egregious, like really horrible things and whatever. And the real work is that human contact. Right, and between Paula Tucci and I, who's one of the founders of Stand Up Canada, next to Shirley Gertem, you know, that's what we say all the time. You know, that's the real work. Is it's not like flying through emails. I'd rather, you know, respond a week later than someone's written and say, my gosh, forgive me for the delay, but here I am. I'm here for you now. And that's what we do. You know, it's truly being there for other people. And that's it for me, that I realized, like, that's the change. That's the common unity. That's the community. This is what we're building. It's already happening. It's not going to happen. It's happening. So despite, you know, like the things that I was working on today, which were, yeah, for lack of a better word, really intense, you know, I remind myself, and I think I said this last time, and I'm sure I'll say it every single time, you know, to step out of the theater afterwards, right? Because and if I don't remember to do that, I'm well a part of it. I'm a character in the play. And, you know, rather to be an observer, it's all going on. But in my world is what I just experienced. So much love and so much bliss and so much harmony out there right now. So my sort of call to action is for all of us. I've been doing this for years, is to write down a vision of the future that we want, right? So and I ask you to do it well past COVID, well past this pandemia. And you know, I'll give you a little bit of my story. I live on a floating island, like Avatar, you know, and I teleport, and I'm, you know, all that stuff, all that totally out there, you know, going to different planets and whatever. I've written that story, and I think about it. I give it attention, you know, and I remind myself to step out of the theater of what is, and know that what I focus my attention on is working its way to me. And one day I step into that, you know. So that's what I wanted to relay to everyone here, is to be an active part of creating. And part of that is what we're doing right here, right now. And then, and the other is, you know, when we walk away, is to really consciously use ourselves to bring forth that which we wish. And a lot of time when I ask this question, when I pose this, you know, it's really simple answers like, oh, I just can't wait for COVID to be over, and that I just want it to be done with, you know. And that's sort of what I want for everyone, is to use your wildest childish imagination, because that's what we have to go to. That's literally, and it's our imagination, it's quantum physics, it's spirit science, it's all of that. It's pulling everything in right now to you know, swim out of this what isness. And so that's what I wanted to relay. And actually, I've got a really cool thing that one of the tricks that I use for myself, and one of the things that really helps to change your reality and get proof of it like quite fast. Well, first is discipline. You got to be really like super disciplined with routine, something. But what I've started to do, which I used to do a couple of years ago when I was in a really good place, is I write in the morning and I write in the evening. So I'll write as normal from left to right across the page, switch hands and write backwards with my left. Switch hands. So I'm snaking, and I've not grown up ambidextrous. I've just taught myself, and everybody can, you know. So and you know, just having a meal outside a little bit earlier, chopsticks with my left hand, because I can, because we can, we can do anything, absolutely anything. And so that's one, you know, change the way you do your hair, change, but actually do it so consciously, you know, like instead of walking to my room just now, and I've done this before, I'll crawl because I can. And that's changing and creating, you know, different, it's changing, it's creating new neural networks in our brain, right? And old ones are dying off when we have the discipline and the routine to continue and continue and continue. So I can't tell you. I'm gonna leave it at that, and I'll do a quick blurb about stand up, and then I've got to go. Right? Not I've got to go. I choose to go, because actually I really the decompression has to continue before I jump onto this call. And I think it's so important to honor myself, to honor you guys, and that's also a really good thing to relay, that we have to honor ourselves and our energy, our time, and our everything, right? So so yes, do weird things, be what is considered weird, you know. And
oh, I got that down pat, don't worry about that.
I know, I bet, yeah, same club. But and then the other thing is, yeah, Stand Up Canada. So tonight we've got a call with Vaccine Choice Canada, and Paula, so she's been on the speaking circuit of late. God bless her. She's, I don't know if you, obviously Laura, you know her, but to Deborah and Elizabeth, if you get a chance, like she just spoke for Liberty Coalition, which I just tweeted, and I'll pop it on Instagram tomorrow, and so beautiful. So anyways, all that to say, we are filing a lawsuit right now. I completely lost.
You're good. The light is representing nature, and
yes,
so it's all exactly perfect. Keep on with what's going on, man.
All right. So yes, Stand Up Canada, what we're doing right now is we're launching a lawsuit against a Canadian corporation, and so essentially we are looking for support in doing that, and it's not meant to be a trial that's dragged out or anything, a case that's dragged out. What we're looking for is we're specifically going after big business that's got this no mask, no service policy, which is absolutely unlawful, as is everything else. So that's where we're at right now. And yeah, if you can check that out on the website, standupcanada.solutions, or share, in the very least, share that with any and everybody. We keep receiving, emails from people about just being absolutely abused for not wearing a mask. It's you know what it is. We don't have to go there, so I won't. We know what it is. So anyways, yeah, that's it. It's a lawsuit that we're launching, and with this Ontario Supreme Court.
Good for you. Good for you.
No, actually, do you know what? To be honest, Deborah, it's good for everybody. We don't do this for ourselves, right? No. And I think that's important to say, that we're all volunteers.
And on behalf of everybody, I say good for you.
Yeah,
I'm behind you. Mm-hmm.
So it's yeah, that's what's happening, and I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased that we're here, that we connect.
And enjoy, and we'll see you next week at the same time, and we'll carry on the conscious conversation without you, and appreciate your blessing us with your grace and presence when you
bless you. God bless you. Loads of love, everybody. Bye.
All the best.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you.
So good. So good. My heart is so full. And that when I used to work at a gym, I was selling gym memberships. And it just reminds me of Manja's story, where I used to literally say that my job was to sprinkle magic on the members. And just to split in and ask them about their day, and just let them know somebody cared, and to make eye contact in the way that so many people are lacking, especially now. But even then, it was in 2018, before the world was changed by the video game drama reality show. And it's just like, wow, I didn't understand fully, although I did. Like, I knew I wasn't getting paid enough to do what I was doing. But I loved it until I had a judgment from somebody that I cared about, make a judgment about how little I was doing with my life, and how I needed to be doing so much more. And I was all in, and then I got that backhanded compliment / criticism that then turned into me leaving there not too long after, but changing how I showed up in some ways. That also gave me a lot of lessons as to how I choose to show up now, regardless of the pay that I get. So that was a very powerful experience that I kind of went through, and sprinkling the magic, and then realizing that the magic is just in the connection of the everyday. And part of the reason that these meetings are so important for us to have this space to be able to consciously connect and to bring forward what's going on in our world. So would love to kind of hear what's going on in your space, and what would be the best use of our time here together.
And I'd really love to hear, because Laura, I know a little bit about your background, but Deborah, I don't think I've met you. No. So I'd love to hear what you have going on, and where you're coming from, and how you're feeling, all of that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
I want to say as well, that's part of the reason that we termed it Empowering Leaders of Self Mastermind, because I didn't want it to be where somebody didn't fully see themselves as a leader, such as a mother or an employee or a coach. You know, these are things that you would naturally associate with leadership, because it is leadership. It's just, if you don't have the term and somebody else have accredited you as such, it can be difficult, especially when we're in the student plane. And we're really in that culture, which is the culture you rally with, of needing to have the certificate in order to prove our worth or to prove our good enoughness. We are not our career. Absolutely, Deborah. And that is the big difference in between a job, a career, and a vocation. It's like when I worked at the gym, that was a job. I made $15 an hour and commission for selling the memberships, and I rocked that position, and I was given opportunities. which would have then turned into a career had I taken the job into the supervisor and leadership and management position that I did not go with, because that's not where I was fully called. But I also was dealing with the gremlins of the ones that, you know, had judgments about how not enough I was doing, or how I was underperforming where I was. Because ultimately my focus has always been the vocation, which is my calling, which is to be a light in this world, to be one who sprinkles magic anywhere I go as best as what I can. And don't get me wrong, I don't always do that. And, you know, sometimes people that don't like having magic sprinkled in their midst have bigger storm clouds afterwards because of all of the emotion that gets brought up when somebody reflects a mirror we're not familiar with or as comfortable with. And so that's really what I'm prepared to stand for, because part of my whole mission is around peaceful inner warriors united. And that's being willing to do the inner work that feels like we're moving so slowly and we're not doing enough. And it's so frustrating because it's so much work and it's so draining and it takes so long. And the dark night of the soul is never one night. And a couple weeks or a couple months or a couple years. And it's just like, props to you for doing the inner work and being willing to be in that process of saying, I don't know what I have to offer, but I'm willing to show up and find out, because it's going to unfold. Because what I'll say to you in asking my background, like, I have an English degree from McMaster. I graduated in 2009. I've then got certified as a coach, teacher, speaker with the John Maxwell team in 2011, and wound up in a relationship with one of the faculty for 4 years and lived with him in England for 3.5 years. So I was very blessed to have an opportunity to step out of my old life and start a new life that was moving into somebody else's life and needing to fit in that role. And so I always reference the survival archetypes of the victim, child, saboteur, and prostitute, because those archetypes are familiar patterns that get filled in with energy. And that's where the fight between the fearful and the faithful comes in. Because when we're fearful, those archetypes are in their scared side. Whereas when we are faithful, those archetypes then move into their sacred side, which is the part of us where the prostitute is concerned, for instance. When scared, that's the part of us that will sell ourselves out to the highest bidder.
Absolutely.
And we have a price. And that was who I got really familiar with when I lived in England, because my life had to fit into the man's life that I had moved there to be with. And he was 18 years older and had an ex-wife and recently divorced with 2 small children. And he started as my mentor. So then maneuvering that and trying to make sure that it didn't look bad on him for him to be dating one of his students. And then moving my life over there and knowing no one in the whole country except for my boyfriend of like a few months at that point, and then his kids and his ex-wife and like one friend that he had, because he didn't really have a lot of a social circle. So I had to completely reinvent myself over there. And what I'm so grateful for is that I found an MLM, multi-level marketing company, in organic skincare. So I sold Neil's Jar Dollies. You know it? Yeah, so it's super exciting and worth making a lot of noise over, because I loved that company, and I won an incentive trip with them, which taught me about literally we're able to manifest what we desire. And I can go into that story another time if you're interested. And basically, when I was over there, I was really found something that I loved with organic skincare and learning about toxic loads within our bodies because of the products that we're consuming, that we're putting on our skin. And so that has all really kind of opened my eyes, and the corruption of the soils. Being a farmer daughter anyway, I was aware of it, but then I got it to be part of my business. And then I realized that if I was going to leave the relationship at some point, and I knew that I'd have to because respect was an issue, I knew that I wouldn't be able to bring that business back to Canada with me, which meant I'd lose the man, I'd lose the business, and I'd lose the life. And I couldn't give it all up, knowing that the relationship at some point was going to fail. So I kind of pulled away from that, and then was trying to support spouses of successful entrepreneurs, because there's not really a support system for the supports. And so that became something that I kind of focused on. But I felt totally insecure and inadequate and not able to fully stand in my power. I then got back from England. I was missing this tooth. It's an implant. And so then I had to go for 9 months with no tooth at the front of my mouth to deal with a congenitally missing tooth defect, which was brilliant in the scheme of things, because not only then was I dealing with a breakup and moving countries and starting a new job selling the coaching program I'm certified through, I also was dealing with dental issues that made it so that getting back into a relationship, right, and jumping ship and then jumping into another one wasn't an option so much. And so it's been 5 years of being single and living on this farm that I've been on since I was 7, now living with my grandparents. My grandma passed last year. And so it's me and my papa and my cat, and all the judgments that go with that, being 33 and, living on the farm where everybody used to come in and judge me. And has Laura got a job yet? What's Laura doing? And, all of that conversation and all of those judgments, because I've always been different. And I've been writing a book about the transformation of self-image through the hero's journey from a soulful perspective for the last 4 years.
And a hero's journey, right on.
Yeah.
But,
that's where I've been so devoted, and it wasn't paying off, because the inner work doesn't pay off until you're on the other side of it and using it. And so basically all of my story there hopefully gives you some context. But then it's also to say that in the last year and a half, I basically got locked up in a mental institution for 2.5 weeks. In September 27th, 2019, I called myself into the police because I was going through an enlightenment experience, essentially. And I also had been irresponsible in storming the gates of heaven and did 8 DMT ceremonies with a shaman in the months before that, in February, March, April timeframe. And I'd done a 3-week sacred sojourn of the soul out to Arizona, Nevada, California, with a girl that was supposed to be a friend, but ultimately she said she could be the soul doula that would rebirth me and do it naturally, which I knew I needed to do rather than all of these ceremonies. And basically I was willing to go out with her on that context, and I knew that she needed to experience the stretch and the growth of being out of this area. And then also I had the money to be able to pay, and she had the experience that would be a good support system, and we'd be traveling together. So I said I'd pay and she'd pay me back, but she never paid me back. And the friendship ended up going south or nowhere afterwards because of the shame that their projections, the power dynamics. And basically when I got back from that experience, I went into a contracted state after the expanded state and went into a super low space. So I really got to understand the high rise of emotional awareness that I'd been teaching on, or trying to teach on, which is taking the emotional guidance system from Esther Hicks and then applying it to the idea of an apartment building with the same address, completely different perspective, top to bottom. And so I had the theory, but I didn't have the practice. April 2019, when I came back from that trip, and then pulled out of some opportunities that totally broke my ego in half and shattered it in so many ways, because all of those ego deaths are required in order to get through to the other side. But I say that because in going to that low place of not even wanting to live any longer, because I couldn't figure out how someone like me that just, I can't get a job that's going to give me a good pension that I don't believe will exist by the time we get there. Like
Yeah, no,
it just,
I hear you on that one for sure.
never made sense.
Yeah.
And so just like lowest point until then, I like picked myself back up, started teaching English to kids in China. And then I ended up going out west for another 3-week adventure, which was supposed to be to get into business with somebody that I figured out was more into profits over people from my perspective, in terms of using my gifts in order to use my skills to sell packages, which I have a lot of sales training and marketing training and coach training and communication. So I'm a great salesperson because I'm selling to you right now. I'm just not looking for anything in return. Do you know what I mean? Like I sell ideas that resonate for me and that feel truthful because karmically, I believe that that's what I came here for. But other people will use people like us that can do that to hopefully try to corrupt us, which is part of what I've kind of come to understand. I'm here to help people understand how they can be manipulated, which is what empowerment is. It's like an empowerment coach is not somebody that gives you all the answers. An empowerment coach is somebody that says EM is God. Power is what's in you. And ment is the mental attitude you have to use in relation to imbuing yourself with the space to be that which you seek in this world. I'm grateful to be able to be a lighthouse here and absolutely 100% agree with the light codes being activated, because the crazy, by definition, means different. Part of my enlightenment experience, before I made the call to the police, I'd called a dozen people while I was driving from Toronto to the farm here before I called the police. And I was just calling people to activate them. I was calling people to let them know that I had a key that I felt like they needed. And it sounds so crazy because like consciously there's no context for what I was dialed into. But like in retrospect, it's like, wow, I was activating the light codes in others. And I knew it, even though I couldn't quantify it or articulate what was happening or why it was happening. It's like, wow, so amazing. And that whole experience, like, can you even understand in any way how humbling it is to do that and go through that experience publicly? Like, I literally did 4 Facebook Lives when I was in the hospital and in like crazy high manic state of awareness where my give a damn button had broke, and I was no longer willing to make other people feel comfortable for the sake of fitting into what they're comfortable with. And so I was just being fully me. And I've always been told that I'm too much, just like I'm sure each of you have been throughout your lives too.
Absolutely.
And, yep.
Too much, too much, too much. You're just too much, Laura. You're just too much, Deborah. You're just too much, Elizabeth. Too much for somebody else, but just enough for the right person or the right people. And so that was really a challenge to come back from after going live and then getting locked up for 2.5 weeks, where I learned that if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. And then to get out of that and to have no support from the mental health system because I left against their wishes, because I didn't need to be in there in the first place. I'm just different generally, which is by definition crazy, but not insane, which is doing the same thing over again, expecting different results, which is exactly what we can't afford to do. And so like coming out of there and then having to get those drugs out of my system in order to not become a customer the way that the mental health system or medical system generally would have us turn into.
Yep.
And going into the lowest point in my life, having just destroyed everything that I spent the last like 8 years working towards with my coaching and leadership and communication and, you know, trying to uplift people. Well, how do you uplift anyone when you've been as low as what I have or as high as what I have? Which I just realized finally that it's like I'm high naturally on life. Like, I think I just release extra DMT, and I think a lot of us do. It's just
DMT?
dimethyltryptamine. Is the chemical that the brain produces at birth, death, and in dream state.
Okay.
So when you take it, like Seth Rogen, and a lot of or Tim Ferriss, a lot of the big guru guys of our day are talking more about DMT ceremonies and how you can pierce through the veils with them.
But I'm just so curious with the ceremonies, was it through ayahuasca that you worked, or was it more directly DMT? Because that is DMT as well, but it's also, I think of ayahuasca as a spirit, but I know that that's the chemical that is manufactured.
Yeah.
With that.
So the DMT that I had used was not ayahuasca, but it's from the ayahuasca family. So it was from a tree. And then it basically was put into a little vape gun. So it's just like I would have a little hoof off of the little vape pen, and then it would take me under the veils for like up to 20 minutes. And then within 20 minutes, it's out of your system. So it was a shorter, deep dive, but then you could go in and it was a more controlled experience in terms of being able to go up, but then be able to safely get yourself back if necessary faster. And so it was not ayahuasca, which is like an 8+ hour ceremony.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's not quite what I would call controlled. So yeah, no, that's really interesting, because in the psychotherapy world now, there's a lot happening with psychedelic assisted psychotherapy, which is really amazing. But it's in danger of being kind of appropriated, I feel. But that'll play out as it plays out, and we'll see how that works.
No, absolutely. And one of the things that's interesting this last week, I actually came across, I think it's Commune Commusings is their newsletter, and they had just done out a message around psychedelics and DMT, and about how it brings up so much when we pierce through the veils. And to come back to a normal world, having had a different experience, is the hero's journey. So if people aren't understanding the sacred sojourn of the soul when they're going on these transformational mystical experiences that, all happen where you're sitting, but, ultimately has changed you because you come back with the lessons that you gained from that experience of being away from where you were, like what Manj was talking about earlier. There is a lack of integration, and there's a lack of comfort in being able to help people integrate those experiences or those lessons.
Absolutely.
And we really need to be working on that element of the community, because we often think about how many people are becoming addicted to drugs, and also what are they really addicted to? Because when we have the conversations about what's under the thing that we're focused on in terms of the problem, then we can actually heal the wound that's still infected if we just put the bandage over top with a little bit of polysporin. It's like we've got to really be willing to actually hold the space for people after a ceremony, and to understand that life is sacred. Like in those ceremonies, it was each of the ceremonies that I partook in, and I'm not endorsing this, but it was part of my irresponsible effort to reach a higher state, which I feel like I did, but then I needed time to integrate and people to help me process through those experiences that I didn't have fully in place, which meant that I kind of went on my own journey that was far more traumatic than what other people need to necessarily go through, now that we have been there to be able to say, okay, now we need to create a container for those who go through this experience and don't have the same tools that we who have been on the path longer have. Because that's like the difference between the crock pot that we've all been brewing in over time and marinating in the personal growth and development and spiritual understandings that help us understand who and whose we are in this life. Like, we've been on the crock pot for a long time simmering. But there's a lot of people that are basically being thrown into the frying pan right now. and that have over the last 14 months, and that more significantly are going to be thrown into the frying pan on full temperature pretty soon, when the consequences of the lies that were bought under the guise of deception ultimately come home to roost, literally.
Feel disillusioned, and disillusion, right? Like, I'm glad that I don't have that illusion anymore, but it feels there's grief there too. But I've been marinating and crock-potting for a while, so I can sort of hold that and manage that along with support. But yeah, the shock, trauma of being completely bought in, and then all of a sudden you're frying up in the pan. But really, like, these people, we're all in a trauma. Like Gabor Mate, as I'm sure you guys are familiar with, he talks a fair bit about this. Like, this is what, like, we're all in a trauma because the world is traumatic, all of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, just think of how traumatic that is to go right in the pan.
Yeah, it's betrayal.
Betrayal. Yeah.
Betrayal. Mm-hmm.
And the grief, like, I even feel that, like, the part of me that was still naively trusting that, okay, it's going to be, not that it's not going to be okay, it will be in a different sense, or it is in a different sense, but it's like, I wanted to believe that it was, and it's my friend who I referred to earlier, she says, it's all dissolute, like, it's everybody there, you could look at it like there's intentional malice, and there's mindsets where I am very aware of that, but then also that's still ignorance too. So it's all just human ignorance. It's just humans, like, wanting money over, and just profiting off suffering. That's one way humans could go. So it's all just ignorance. Like, if, like you said, the game is, it's a game, and some people just, that's the way they play it. But there's still something really grieving in me about that. Like, I don't know. You guys can speak to that.
Anytime we say I don't know, it's just because we haven't sat with the question long enough to let the answer emerge. So I would encourage you to listen back to this replay and to hear yourself say I don't know, or think of it next time you hear yourself say that, and then really dig into what you don't know. Because generally what happens is we say I don't know if we haven't sat with the question long enough, or we don't like the answer that we find that we still have the opportunity to pretend we're not aware of by saying I don't know before we actually have to go there. Because that comes with another level of accountability and responsibility. Being able to respond in a new way, because now we have a new awareness that's taken us to a higher level, and then it's like, oh, now I see life from up here, but my address is still the same, and everybody that has known me is still seeing me as being down on the floor with them, which is why they say prophets are rarely respected in their own hometown. I feel like there's also an important distinction between the N-O of know and the K-N-O-W of to know. Because I don't know, it's like, are we saying I don't know because I haven't been there in my mind? I don't know it? Or is it I don't know? Like, it's inconvenient. I don't want to make a decision. I just want to stay in the place of indecision, or in the space of, like, I'll get to that tomorrow that never comes, because today is all that ever exists. It's like today, this now moment is tomorrow's yesterday. It's like the center point.
And I think that NO is the cognitive dissonance that we see in the general public. Yeah. They don't know, they want, and it's not no, but they don't know. It's like, no, they've reached their ceiling of serenity and they can't go beyond that. No, I don't want to hear anymore. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love
That's that. So interesting. Yeah. What that calls to mind when you said that, Deborah, was I remember reading somewhere or hearing that when you go between lives in the interlife, you go to the point in between lives. So this is taking it a little more up there. But the process of reincarnation, you go to the point where the light gets too bright and then you incarnate. So you can't go for, like, because light is blinding, right? So the more capacity for light that you can hold based on your earthly, whatever, learnings, teachings, understandings, you can go to that point, but you can't go any further. So when the light is shone and you just don't, you can't see it, like you can't bear it anymore, you incarnate. And that's where you, that was one version. I mean, I'm sure that there are others, but it strikes me that what you were just said, like, it's like you were putting your hands up in front of your eyes, like, I don't want to see, it's too bright. And that's the place that I do get, like, I feel that too. Like, I feel like there's, I don't want to know. I can't see that. It's hard. It hurts for me to see it. So there, we can be present with it, which I can, empathize with, because, hey, like, it's hard. Even when you've been stewing for a long time, like, it's really hard to actually, like, I think for me, a breaking point was the vaccination of children without parental consent. I just lost my whatever little faith I had left.
I think I agree with you there. That it's like, even if they did that on animals, like, I think I'd be out in the streets, yeah. Children, animals, the voiceless. My tipping point was that as well, and not having the parents' permission, and just, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? They can't decide what ice cream flavor to buy.
No.
Usually, oh,
and there was ice cream, like, offered.
Oh God, the bribing. I mean, can't people see through that?
No, that's the sea. Like, it's too bright. Oh,
yeah. There you go.
Yeah. There's grief. I feel grief about it. I do. Because I don't, like, I even read, like, I was reading, which wasn't a very good idea, but the VAERS database at one point earlier on in maybe February or January. And there's all these accounts of elderly people, because for me, it's children, animals, and the elderly that I feel. And I really feel that protective urge. And I just kept reading about, such and such 94-year-old vaccinated 1 hour later, dead. 82-year-old vaccinated, 12 hours later, dead. Each time, of course, it was nothing to do with the vaccine. Right. They just didn't get vaccinated soon enough. Blah, blah, blah. And I felt sick, and I was like, but okay, you can settle this, because maybe those souls needed an out. Like, lingering in an old folks home is no fun if you have Alzheimer's and whatnot. Maybe there's those souls said, you know what, I'm just choosing to leave now. And maybe that was an opportunity. But children, that does not work with. Doesn't work with children. So just, it was like, okay, I can't make this into anything, which is, me trying to, in a way, to control it, to try to transform it into something not so horrific. And that's kind of what I did to cope with reading the VAERS database for like 2 hours one night. And have not again, because that's not a good idea. But with children, I couldn't, there's no way to hold that without just the horror. There's just no way. And I don't know, those little ones, it's healthy little souls with, anyway. Then comes in my thought to, okay, well, maybe, I don't know, maybe they won't be harmed, maybe they're protected, I don't know. So I have to that's my I don't know, to let go of the outcome. I don't.
It's heartbreaking.
It is hard.
It's heartbreaking. Yeah.
You're not alone. And we're all frustrated, and we all say, how can't they see? And they say the same about us.
Yeah, it's not weird. Yeah.
Vernacular is saying them versus us, which is the divide and conquer war strategy that is working so well, until we finally just say, okay, no, I smell what's cooking here, and I don't feel like being the boiled frog. And I also know that we can't ultimately leave and run away someplace safe that just seems to have less conflict at this time, because
it's everywhere.
It's a global issue. It's a global overtaking. And ultimately, we are each placed where we are around the world because we are the lighthouses for those that look to us for the sun that they are not getting direct. Because the thing about this culture is that it is very vampiric in the structure of it, in that narcissism is huge and the gaslighting and all of these terms about how we
cancel culture.
Yeah.
I had to look that one up. Yeah.
Yeah. All of that is very vampiric because instead of having a direct connection to source, it's like there's an umbrella over top of that connection for those that are so plugged into the headspace of needing to see it written down. So I guess it goes back to what you were saying previously about the certificates and how that's so much part of it that we need it to be peer reviewed and fact checked in order to know whether it's good enough or whether it's legitimate. But if we actually break it down to a deeper level, I forgot my point.
I'm so glad you're authentic. Yay!
So that happened, and it's just like
I'm enjoying it anyway. Just keep
Yeah.
going. I love it.
Doesn't have to be a point, you know. You said a couple of good sentences in there that are going to stick with me somehow. Mhm.
Good.
Yeah.
Amazing. It was about boiling frogs and keeping us separate. But like you know the analogy of the cooked frog. It's like how do you cook a frog? Like you don't put a frog in hot water. You put a frog into lukewarm, comfortable water and then turn the heat on. And then the frog will adapt itself to the temperature of its water until suddenly it's cooked. That's how you cook a frog. Like that's what's going on right now.
Oh, we're all frogs, are we? Okay.
Well, yes and no, because we're doing something different, which is actually, we're connecting with other frogs in the pot that, watch others frogs floating and say, hey, yo, like, let's not. But
yeah, like make a frog chain and get out, and then everybody can like go out of the pot. But we're all in the pot, though. We have to be in the pot, but not on it, as they say,
Yes, and we're also the ones that came here to change things. So, like what I was saying before I lost my train of thought was around like getting out and like going where it's less conflictual. Well, right now, like yes, we could either like play now and wait for the world to return to normal, and it won't because we're the players that need to turn it around, or we pay up front and we get to play later, and we get to enjoy our life, and we get to learn how to manage our emotions, to be able to actually be okay wherever we are. There is an amazing Facebook video that if you haven't seen it, it's I don't know whether it's American Idol or X Factor. It might be X Factor. But it's this woman who she's dying of cancer and she's 30 years old and she has a song that is literally the words that I told myself when I was going through I was in one of the DMT ceremonies. I was basically going into some of my inner wounds and the darkness, and it was really, really painful. And basically, I played in my head. I caught myself saying, "It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
It's all right. It's okay. It's all right. It's okay." Is it that one?
No, I was just repeating the words, and then it became like a mantra that was just,
yeah.
But the song, I would love to just let you experience it.
What's your name?
My name's Jane. When I sing, I go by Nightbird.
Oh, that's nice. Nightbird?
That's right.
Did you sing? Do you sing for a living?
Not recently.
Where are you from?
I'm from Zanesville, Ohio.
Okay. How old are you?
I'm 30.
30 years old. And the dream is to be a singer. What are you going to be singing for us tonight?
I'm singing an original song called It's Okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It is. It's okay.
It's okay.
What is it's okay about?
It's okay is the story of the last year of my life.
All right. And who you here with?
I'm here by myself.
It's okay.
Yeah.
For a living.
I have not been working for quite a few years. I've been dealing with cancer.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay.
It's okay.
Can I ask you a question? How are you now?
Last time I checked, I had some cancer in my lungs, my spine, and my liver.
Wow.
So you're not okay.
Well, not in every way, no.
You got a beautiful smile and a beautiful glow,
You do.
and nobody would know.
Thank you. It's important that everyone knows I'm so much more than the bad things that happen to me.
Yes.
All right. Sing for us.
Good luck. Night bird.
I absolutely love this. I'm so excited for you guys to experience this. She's so authentic and beautiful.
I moved to California in the summertime. I changed my name thinking that it would change my mind. I thought that all my problems, they would stay behind. I was a stick of dynamite and it just was a matter of time, yeah. Oh dang, oh my, now I can't hide. Said I knew myself, but I guess I lied. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. If you're lost, we're all a little lost, and it's alright. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. If you're lost, we're all a little lost, and it's alright. It's alright, it's alright, it's alright. I wrote 100 pages, but I burned them all. Yeah, I burned them all. I blow through yellow lights and don't look back at all. I don't look back at all. Oh, dang, oh my, now I can't hide. Said I knew what I wanted, but I guess I lied. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. If you're lost, we're all a little lost, and it's alright. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. If you're lost, we're all a little lost, and it's alright. Oh, it's alright to be lost sometimes.
Amazing.
Wow.
Right? Wow.
Very cute.
Wow.
Very cute. Wow. She had I was trying to figure out that voice. That voice was sweet and yet assuring and innocent and yet knowing. You know, she knows. Yeah, that was very good. I would love that link actually.
Happy to. Happy to.
Thank
If
you.
you've got Facebook, I'll post that over, and I'll post that in the replay description as well, so that anyone else can listen to that beautiful
Thank you.
song.